Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Java. This is Friday, October 13th, 2023. Thank you for joining me. So, we've got a lot going on. The MMRI, our favorite risk indicator, is over 300 again in the extreme area. And we are watching this on the back of the stocks kind of falling off on some of the data that came in yesterday. So, we're watching the main elements. Keep your eye on the 10-year. The 10-year yield in the dollar index, and those have a large effect. And if you just write these down, like maybe for a week or something, and watch that correlation to the overall market, you'll begin to see that too. So when you watch those, it'll make more sense to you if you're newer to trading. So we've got the volatility index, or the VIX, up. Gold is going up over the 1900 level again, and those are all kind of plays to safety. So we've got more banking information coming out today, and I'll go over that in a bit. But the sentiment at the moment is cautious, and it's going to be chop, meaning a lot of volatility today. In the morning, since the bank earnings are prior to the market open, I expect probably some larger movements at the beginning, the first hour again, and uh, there could be a big squeeze to the upside. There are a lot of investors waiting for what they call the pivot, which is the Federal Reserve either pausing on the rates, cutting the rates, or flooding the market with more easy money, basically. I don't think that's going to happen. A pause, possibly, but you could have a squeeze plate where they have to do their covering. So be aware of that when you're taking your positions. Just make sure you can get out. I do think there's much more downside coming in the longer term. So we've got the Federal Reserve officials signal potential shift in monetary policy. And so this is kind of what they're talking about as far as with the war. We've got BlackRock is showing that clients are pulling their money out of the long-term bonds. And this again is just over the rate issues that are going on. Another indicator. So with the calendar, we've got import prices coming in. More importantly, those bank earnings are also coming in relatively early. So we'll watch that volatility today. So earnings for pre-market, we've got the rising interest rates are causing headwinds for the bank. Having said that, we're expecting good inflows from JP Morgan, the larger banks, because what they've done is they're taking all the profit and they're shifting, repackaging the riskier loans and shoving them onto the smaller banks, smaller and mid-sized banks. So I expect one or two of those, more of those will be going under, and then JP Morgan, the larger banks, will buy them back for pennies on the dollar. So they're shifting the asset classes. Once they go on sale, they'll purchase them back. And that's how these banks get even larger. So you had a story about Americans getting poorer as Washington is still throwing cash at Ukraine and the migrants. Well, of course, because the whole point of this uh, tightening with the rate hikes is to get the consumers to stop spending money. So they're not going to give any to the Americans because they want them to stop spending and crush that demand. That given, the USDA just had a sale of 20,000 head of cattle, and the short of that story is that the price was increased. So you will be watching for higher prices on meat if you eat them, if you eat meat. We also had the US government. Now, this is kind of a different play and a little bit more to the real story of going on. US government is trying to sanction a couple of ships that violated the Russian oil price cap of $60 per barrel. Now, they caught these two ships because they actually did use the insurance, and these are basically sacrificial lambs because Russia doesn't really care. They're shipping a lot of their oil outside of this insurance and outside of these sanctions, so they can charge whatever they want to, and they're basically undercutting, selling them to third parties that are repackaging and reselling to Europe and other places that are in desperate need of their oil. So the conflict. This is, I gave a warning yesterday because there's warnings everywhere, and now it is, at first they said it was not credible, and now they are finally accepting these and then putting them out so that people are aware. And the New York Police Department is fully mobilized, as well as the National Guard, because the leader of Hamas has called for a global jihad today. Um, it's called Al Aqsa Flood and just calling for violence. So be careful if you have to go out, particularly around large numbers of people. If you're not in a community where you know who the people are, just a little extra caution. Don't live in fear, but do be aware. And just want to bring that up. And then we also had the governor saying there's no specific threat, trying to downplay it really. So just caution. And, after all of these migrants have come into the country in several areas and they did not regulate them. So there's a lot of angry people. So, again, caution. So we've got the Hamas invasion rewriting the rules in the Middle East. Well, because they targeted civilians, there have always been what we call rules of engagement. And with the Geneva Convention, basically not, basically playing fair in a war. Well, all of that is written off, and Israel has told them now zero rules of engagement and do whatever you have to basically it's getting awful on the physical front. Now on the nuclear front, we've got NATO holding major nuclear exercise. So Russia pulled out of the test ban treaty and they basically started testing their nuclear arsenal. And the other story is that US must prepare for war with Russia and China. And we've also got North Korea kind of threatening with they've been shooting off missiles and testing their military prowess, if you will. So they're threatening to bomb an aircraft carrier from the United States that kind of parked off the shore there. So tensions mounting. United States fighting on multiple fronts, which is not really a good idea in accordance with basic warfare. But I want to move on to where the real war is going on. So aside from the physical wars and what they're talking about with the nuclear, we have been in a nuclear, I'm so sorry, could be nuclear, currency and trade war for some time. And this is really what is forcing all of the other things. So Putin is ordering new measures to strengthen their ruble, and these are focused on basically trade, taxation, and limiting their exports, who they will sell to, because they're taking their resources. They're very energy rich. They're controlling fuel between them and the Middle East countries who now are escalating, but they also have metals. They've got fertilizer, which is critical to food production, and they're just kind of controlling this. So, along with this, we've got China on the other side, basically shifting their trade. So, on the United States side, basically what we did was shift a lot of trade to Mexico, Canada, and other partners, trying to punish them. Let Evergrande, they've got Country Gardens, and Evergrande are in trouble. So, financially, these are their affecting their real estate and their loans and their banks. So all of it's kind of a trickle down thing. So in response to this, what China is doing is they're creating new trade partners over in basically with Russia and extended countries, pretty much everybody except Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and their imports they're basically making bank off of this. So they're creating trade agreements with Turkey. And this is also a part that plays in because Syria is getting into the game now and the bombing with the Hamas and everything else. So there's a larger picture going on, basically shifting trade and the monetary side of this and with the currencies. And so I just want to bring that up that this is all, it's the boring side. Nobody wants to talk about it as much. There are the more quiet news stories, but they're actually going to affect more because they can do widespread, basically famine with this and the goods. There's a lot of things people are taking for granted that we have in these trade agreements. So I just want to bring this up because it could be significant. And with that, I wish you all a green trading day, just a wonderful day in general. Thank you again for joining me. If you don't mind, give it a like. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.